Okay, so time for our very first step. And this first step was selected as a way for us to get used to using our solvent cement on a part that won't give us any trouble if we accidentally make a mistake and use too much cement, something like that. It's going to be fine on this part. Later in the build, there'll be times when we want to be more precise with the cement application, and we'll talk about those times when we get to them. But for now, it's okay for us to be a little free with how we use the cement and kind of just get used to how it behaves. This step is also going to expose us to a technique that we use throughout the build where we have machine screws that we use to clamp parts together after we apply the cement so that they can be held together firmly while the cement dries. The other things I need for this step are a tool to drive my machine screws. In this case, I like to use this driver, but also some of the sets come with a little Allen wrench that you can use for that purpose as well. I also like to keep a couple pairs of needle nose pliers around because I don't actually have a wrench that can hold these tiny little nuts, so I hold them in needle nose pliers while I apply them, screw them together rather. So the parts that we'll need come from our clear acrylic, and this one's pretty easy to find. It's in the large. We only have a few large plates like this, and this one has 4 large holes near the center, and then 6 smaller holes around it. So that should be pretty easy to find in the clear parts. One thing you'll see in your base plate that I don't have on this particular part here in front of me is there'll be some cutouts which can be used later to bring cables into or out of the Crowbox if we need to. This part here doesn't have those, but yours will. But let's just key off of those larger holes in the middle. The other thing you need from your clear parts is this plate here, which has 4 large holes in the center and 4 smaller holes around the outside. And it's got kind of a distinctive shape. Now the reason that my parts look funny here, they're kind of frosted, is because transparent acrylic doesn't show up very well on camera. So for the purposes of this build video, I'm using parts that I scuffed with sandpaper to make them a little more frosty so that you can actually see what I'm doing on the video. Your parts will be completely transparent as they should be. So anytime you see me handling frosty parts like this, you'll find them in your kit to be in your collection of clear parts. The other thing I have is a couple of, well, a small handful, I should say, of applicator tips, which I've already cut down. So I have these, the kind that I'm using are these kind with a really sort of a long tail on them. And I just take my utility knife and just clip them down like that and keep the shorter end and toss the longer bit into a little cup here that I use to organize my waste. So the procedure we're going to follow here is we're going to take our solvent cement and put an applicator tip on the nozzle of the tube so that we can kind of have better control over our cement. And we're going to put a lot of that cement onto the back of this, well, not the back because it's symmetrical, so on one side of this plate, and then we're going to put it in place on the base. But before we do that, I want to take my 4 10mm long machine screws and put them through these 4 holes on the back of the plate. The holes that are to the left and right of the larger holes. And then if I just pinch these guys together so they don't fall out while I'm laying this down, I can get my plate back onto my work surface here with my machine screws sticking out. We can ignore these 2 holes for now. We won't be using those till much later. But I guess there's no real reason to delay, so what we're going to do is just put a pretty good amount of cement onto this part here, and I'm just going to flip it and get it over these machine screws like that. And then once that's in place, I'm going to lift this whole assembly up and put nuts onto the machine screws and tighten them. And the tightening of these nuts and bolts will hold the smaller plate really tightly against the larger plate while the cement cures. And again, this is something that we're going to be doing over and over again throughout the build, so this is a good opportunity to see that at work. So I am going to get started. I'm going to take an applicator tip and put it onto the tip of my, or the end of my, the nozzle of my cement tube like this. Make sure it gets pushed in place pretty well. Now, the thing about the cement in these metal tubes is that you don't really want to squeeze the tube if you can help it, because if you squeeze the tube, you'll pressurize the cement and it might start flowing, and it won't stop until the pressure is alleviated, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So if you do find yourself in a situation where your tube gets squeezed and cement just keeps flowing out, you just need to set your tube down somewhere and let the cement ooze out until it's done. Most of the time, you can just pour the cement out of the tube, but you may have to use a little bit of pressure. It just depends on whether or not the cement starts to flow. So I'm just going to start, and in this case my cement is just flowing, so I'm just going to put quite a bit of cement on the back of this smaller plate here. And you want to probably get this done in about a minute, no more than that, because you don't want the cement to start to set up on you. So I'm going to go a little faster here, and now I am squeezing a little bit just to hurry this process along. But what I want to do, because I'm squeezing, is I want to stop squeezing before I'm done. That way that extra pressure that's left over in the tube will just squirt the last bit of cement out, and I won't have too much oozing out once I'm done. So we want to use a good bit of this. Like I said, you can kind of circle those screw holes in the edges. And then I do have a little bit of oozing happening, so I'll just put my tube away. And I'll flip this over, cement side down, and find those 4 machine screws in the corner like that, press it together, and then I'll support those screws with my fingertips like that as I pick this up, and then just start getting nuts threaded onto those machine screws, just by hand for now, just to hold them in place. Now, once I'm sure that none of my machine screws are going to fall out of the back of this because they have nuts on them, I will tighten them up. And again, I like to do that just by grabbing them with my needle nose pliers. Use my driver from the other side, tighten these down. And again, you can do the same thing with the Allen key that may have come with your kit. Just depends on what you're using to drive your machine screws. Again, I like the driver, but the key works just as well. You don't want to really, don't have to squeeze these horribly, but you do want to have good clamping pressure on the part. And as you can see, I've had some cement squirt out along here and there, and on this part that's just fine. There'll be, again, we've talked about that, but there'll be times later when we don't want that to happen, but we'll talk about what to do about that later. This part, as I said, was selected because it's going to forgive us if we make mistakes like that. So once we have that cement in place, this smaller plate in place, I want to do the edges also with a bead of cement. Now, since I've set my cement down here, you can see that this has already actually started to set up. So when that happens, I just pop off the tip and put it aside, and I put on a fresh one. And that tip that I just put down, the used one, is not wasted. Later on, when this cement hardens completely, you can just push it out with a paper clip and then continue to use that same tip. So for this part, now I'm just going to go around and I'm just going to put a bead of cement along this joint. Try to get uniform coverage. This will just give us a little bit more reinforcement here. And again, I am not squeezing very much, just a little bit. Mostly I'm letting the cement pour. Okay, let me get to a spot where the shape is a little more challenging. I'm just going to follow it as best I can. Try to make sure I get that edge bonded the whole way. See, I squirted a little too much cement out there, but that's okay. So if that happened on your end too, don't worry, you'll be fine. And that's pretty much it for our first step. So we have reinforced our base plate by cementing something smaller to it to make it more rigid. So it's now 6 millimeters thick in the very center there. These 4 holes later will be where we can drive the screws to actually attach the Crowbox to a post if we want to do that. And now we also have gotten a little experience using our screws to clamp these parts together. We're going to put this aside now and let the cement dry. Later on when we come back to this part and get ready to use it, we're going to remove these nuts and bolts because they're not necessary any longer. Right now they're just clamping for us, but they're not going to be part of our structural plan moving forward. So that's it for this guy. We'll just get it away from our work area so that we can keep going on some other assemblies, and we'll see it again later.